Warm greetings. Let's review a case of iron deficiency anemia. Anemias are a group of diseases characterized by a decrease in hemoglobin or red blood cells, resulting in an eventual decrease in the overall oxygen carrying capacity of the blood. The importance of anemia often is overlooked and undertreated. Evidence, in fact, suggests that anemia is not an ingenuous bystander. It can affect both the length and quality of life. With that in mind, here is the case. DG, a 35-year-old woman, is seen in the clinic. Her chief complaints include weakness, dizziness, and epigastric pain. She has a 5-year history of peptic ulcer disease, a 10-year history of heavy menstrual bleeding, and a 20-year history of chronic headaches. She has 2 children who are 1 and 3 years of age. That is particularly thorough, with a definitive cause of concern. On the right corner, you might find our distressed yet beloved Mrs. DG and her panic-stricken son, let's call him Master EG. Upon further evaluation, it is found that Mrs. DG is currently taking tetracycline for her acne, ibuprofen for her headaches, and daily esomeprazole for the peptic ulcer. A review of her systems is positive for decreased exercise tolerance. Physical examination reveals a pale, lethargic white woman appearing older than her stated age. Moving on to the vital signs, they are within the normal limits, and her heart rate is regular at 100 beats per minute. Also, her examination is notable for pale nail beds and splenomegaly. Please note the highlights for further review. For confirmed diagnosis, laboratory tests are now awaited. Significant laboratory results came back and include the following. For the most part of other values, there is a predominant decline adding to the prognosis. Serum ferritin is a mirror to the stores of iron in the body and is consistently low with IDA. There is a significant drop in the hemoglobin count as well. WHO categorizes anemia as mild, moderate, and severe, where each mild lies between 9 to 11 grams per DL and moderate between 7 to 9, and finally severe anything below 7 grams. Mrs. DG is certainly a case of moderate anemia. We will get back to a discrete understanding of the lab values. For now, I'd appreciate if you could just trust me that iron deficiency is determined to be the cause of DG's anemia. An upper GI series with a small bowel follow through are planned to evaluate her persistent epigastric pain. The first question we have to ask ourselves as healthcare providers is what factors predispose Mrs. DG? Mrs. DG has now given me the liberty to call her by her first name. Thank you, Mrs. D. Back to the question. What factors predispose Mrs. D to IDA? For starters, there are several factors that could add up to Mrs. D's diagnosis. Principally speaking, iron deficiency anemia can have 4 pathophysiologic mechanisms involved. There can be reduced intake, fine intake but reduced absorption, fine intake and absorption but increased demand from the body, and lastly, the best of everything, yet an evidence of increased loss of iron, and that can be more often than not because of chronic blood loss. Mrs. D here has a cluster of causative factors that contribute to the finding of iron deficiency anemia. Her history of heavy menstrual bleeding and a stool test positive indicate menstrual plus GI sources of blood loss. The GI blood loss may be secondary to the chronic use of her headache meds, NSAIDs, ibuprofen, or her recurrent peptic ulcer disease, or just both. Many women of childbearing age also have a borderline iron deficiency that becomes more evident during pregnancy because of an increased iron requirement. Mrs. DG has given birth to 2 children, therefore her iron stores have been repeatedly taxed in the recent years. That could also add up. In addition, absorption of dietary iron may be compromised by her use of proton pump inhibitors and tetracycline. So there are a multitude of factors to be evaluated here. The next question relevant would be what subjective or objective signs, symptoms, and laboratory tests are typical of IDA in Mrs. D. Mrs. D's constitutional constitutional symptoms of weakness and dizziness could be a result of severe anemia. The most important signs and symptoms of IDA are related to the cardiovascular system and are a reflection of the imbalance going on between the demands for oxygen against a diminishing oxygen supply. Mrs. D's increased heart rate, decreased exercise tolerance, and a pale appearance are consistent with tissue anoxia and the cardiovascular response that may be seen in iron deficiency anemia. Unfortunately, Mrs. D's iron deficiency has advanced to a symptomatic stage. In patients who are not yet symptomatic, however, depletion of iron stores can be detected by measuring ferritin, the iron storage component. To provide an understandable overview here, firstly, we have to know the iron metabolism and that it is strictly regulated. Iron is first taken in, then absorbed by the duodenal cells into the blood. From there, it is taken into the respective sites of requirements like the bone marrow. Once entered, iron has two fates. One, to get down to business, that is functional iron in hemoglobin, myoglobin or other enzymes. Or two, sit back and watch. Stored forms like ferritin or hemosiderin. It is just these two. Although ferritin is primarily an intracellular protein, serum concentrations of ferritin correlate closely with iron stores. There are a few exceptions like acute inflammation though, but you have to remember this, you have to certainly remember this, that serum ferritin concentrations are directly proportional to the iron stores of the body. So if the serum ferritin level is say below 12 nanograms per ml, it is consistent with iron deficiency. In other news, free iron in the blood being polar can be toxic to tissues. So iron remaining free, not good. Layman language. It is henceforth always associated with what we call a cover. Like in the blood, iron is tossed around with transferrin. It is a strong cover that takes it to the required cells without harming the audience. The index of transferrin present in circulating blood is the iron binding capacity. So the transferrin will be waiting around empty to bind to iron, making the relative concentration to be high. So overall, an increased TIBC along with a reduced serum ferritin is a classic case of iron deficiency anemia, and that is one thing you are supposed to take home with you. In fact, these parameters can be detected before the clinical manifestations of anemia are even apparent. These abnormalities persist and worsen as the patient progresses to anemia, and this is certainly illustrated by Mrs. D's laboratory values. It is after the iron in the storage compartment is completely depleted that heme and hemoglobin synthesis are decreased. It's like a stage-wise decline. In severe iron deficiency, RBCs become hypochromic and microcytic. Mrs. D's corpuscular indices also indicate that her anemia is hypochromic and microcytic, and that is not good news. Lastly, one question that arises over here is why thrombocytosis? There is a wondrous explanation that awaits. Since both erythrocytes and megakaryocytes originate from a common progenitor cell, a defective erythroid line compensates with an overactive latter. I know, that's wonderful. So that is why thrombocytosis can occur in 50 to 75% of the patients with a severe case of anemia, that is hypochromic microcytic anemia, that is secondary to a chronic blood loss. The thrombocytosis in like Mrs. D returns to normal after adequate treatment with iron. So in the workup of a microcytic hypochromic anemia, the stool has also been examined, which was positive. In summary, Mrs. D's signs, symptoms, laboratory findings all support the diagnosis of IDA. What next? How should Mrs. D's iron deficiency be managed? What dose of iron should be given to treat Mrs. D's iron deficiency, and for how long? The primary treatment for DG should be directed towards control of the underlying causes of anemia, which in this case are many. Mrs. D's iron stores are low because of the blood loss, multiple childbirths, heavy menstrual flow, decreased dietary iron absorption because of the meds, and perhaps an inadequate diet. Therefore, the cause of her blood loss should be corrected, her dietary intake should be analyzed and modified, and supplemental iron should be prescribed to replenish her stores and correct the anemia. The goals of iron therapy are to normalize the hemoglobin hematocrit concentrations and to replete the iron stores and correct the causative factors. The usual adult dose of ferrous sulfate 325 mg administered thrice daily at an increased start over is given. Hematological response is usually seen in 2 to 3 weeks with 1 gram per dl increase in hemoglobin and a 6% increase in the hematocrit. Mrs. D's anemia can be expected to resolve in the first 2 months, but still the therapy has to be continued for the next 3 to 6 months because we don't just want to replenish her present count but also replete the iron stores. Now, the next question that comes after this is, what kind of information should be provided to Mrs. D when dispensing oral iron? What can be done if she experiences any intolerable GI symptoms? Mrs. D should be told that oral iron therapy can produce dark stools and she doesn't have to worry about it. Secondly, she has to be advised to take it on an empty stomach because food, especially dairy products, decrease the absorption. Gastric side effects can occur in 5 to 20% of the population. And that's why the dose is increased and the increments of 1 tablet per week every 2 to 3 days until the full therapeutic dose of 325 mg thrice daily has to be administered. Mrs. D should also be educated about the potential drug interactions, especially because she is on tetracycline and esomeprazole. The proton pump inhibitor can reduce the iron absorption, and there should be probably a 1 hour to 3 hour gap between the intake of iron meds and the proton pump inhibitor. A time gap between the tetracycline meds is also important to make sure that the meds have their fullest absorption. Lastly, when would parenteral iron therapy be indicated for Mrs. D? Several indications exist for parenteral iron administration. Failure to respond to oral iron therapy would prompt a re-evaluation, especially for Mrs. D. So why would oral therapy even fail? There could be multiple factors: non-adherence, a misdiagnosis like inflammation or malabsorption, maybe due to sprues or radiation or intestinal resections, or there is still a continuing blood loss equal to or greater than the rate of RBC production, or there is a dire need of RBCs. Good news for our Mrs. D, because she is responding well to meds and is expected to have a full recovery. To end this, let's revise the nerdy enough to take away from Mrs. DG's case. Firstly, anemia is a reduction in the red blood cell mass, described as either a decrease in the number of RBCs per microliter or as a decrease in hemoglobin concentration in a blood to a level below the normal physiological requirement. Anemia is an objective sign of a disease, not a diagnosis. It can be associated with multiple etiologies, including nutritional deficiencies and acute and chronic diseases. It can also be drug-induced. A bonus point there: if an individual has a definitive case of IDA, eliminating the more obvious causes, the etiology still remains uncertain. A gastrointestinal evaluation or endoscopy is a must. There can be whealed carcinogens that will not be treated with an unornamented iron supplementation of yours. Second, iron deficiency anemia is a state of negative iron balance in which the daily iron intake and stores are unable to meet the RBC and other body tissue needs. It is the most common nutritional deficiency worldwide, and the most common causes could just be a parasitic infestation. Rule them out. Symptoms include pallor, cardiovascular, respiratory, cognitive complications, and a decreased quality of life. Thirdly, the earliest and most sensitive laboratory change for IDA is a decreased serum ferritin, which should be interpreted in conjunction with decreased transferrin saturation, increased TIBC. Hemoglobin, hematocrit, RBC indices usually remain normal until the later stages. Lastly, the goals of treatment are to normalize the hemoglobin and hematocrit concentrations and replete iron stores. At the cost of hackneying, I would still repeat that the prime goal is identifying the cause. Iron replacement with oral or parenteral therapy is given. The ferrous form of iron is absorbed 3 times more readily than the ferric form. Parenteral iron may be needed in patients who do not respond to oral therapy. With this, I will be signing off. Yours sincerely, the Nerd.